that is going to backtest our system. In this case, it's the two consecutive up candle system, or as I just call it, which is just a variation of a momentum system. Anyway, so what we can do is I can define a function here and just call it sim, like as in simulator, and then we'll pass our data, and we'll start writing our code. So we'll start by getting some variables created here that we'll need to get our. So this is some intern variables that we need to backtest. So one of the things we need is, of course, our rewards to risk ratio. I'm just going to call it R. I'm going to set it up as 1, just as a default, and then we can play with it once it's ready. The other variable, of course, we need is the body size. So the body size of the candle, which is one of the criteria of our system. We're just going to call this variable body size, and we're going to give it a small value to start with, let's say 0.02. So these will be floats, of course. What else do we need? So we have that body size. We need some candle variables to keep track of our system. So one of them, of course, is as we go through the iteration, we need to keep track of which were the up candles or not. So we're going to, of course, need something called up candle, and we're going to use booleans, so true or false. So let's just initialize them all as false. So is it an up candle, true or false? And then we need a similar thing for the previous up candle. So this is the previous candle, because to recall that our system is from 2 consecutive candles, so we need to keep track of those. What else do we need? So one of the other things we need is, as we define the stop and the target, we need to see where those is. So we need to define where the previous candle low is, and that will be a float. So let's just initialize it as 0. And so I was referring how I'm going to use data frames for this, but I would like to make a little note here. While we iterate through the data, I'm actually going to use lists, and then in the end, once I have all the data I need in the list, I'll load the list into a data frame. There's no particular reason for this. I mean, there is a reason. There's no massive reason for saying this. Perhaps I should say it like that, if I can use that word. Is that iterating through a data frame might not be as efficient as I load data into the data frame. So I decided to just use list, and then in the end, in a single step, I just load all my list, all the data in my list into a data frame, and then I can do the calculations using the data frame, which is the big benefit of using the data frame instead of lists, because there's so many useful functions already done for the data frame. It's a fantastic library for data science users. Anyway, so we've done that. So I'll create 2 empty lists here. One of them will be I call it open trade. So it will be a list that contains all our open trades, which will only be one at any time, as I mentioned before, because we won't have concurrent trades. And then the other one is, I'll just call it trade, which is the list of all the trades. So everything that's been done on the past, so the closed trades, if you want to call it like that. Okay, so what are the variables do we need? Okay, we'll leave it at that, and then if we need more, we'll just come to here and add as we need it. So now we can start iterate through the rows of our data frame. So we'll just use a for cycle. So for each row in our data frame. So in our data, we're going to use the iteration of tuples function, and we're going through each one of them. So for each row in our data, we're going to load this data. So our data, of course, will be the first column, so row 0, and then we'll do the same. We cannot call it open because it's a keyword already used in Python, so we just call it OPN. So our row open will be, of course, a row 1, and then high will be our row 2. So remember from the columns of our file, we transpose to the data frame. So in my data, I already have everything formatted for two decimal units. It's a good practice to work with a fixed number of decimal units. So in this case, perhaps if you will not, you could use a round function to just round it, let's say 2 decimal. So you could just use something like this to do that formatting now, if you haven't done it before you imported your file. So I'll just have that for convenience. In my case, it's not really necessary, but there you go. I just put it for reference. So let's load the low, which is of course row, column 3, and then the close or last, let's round it as well, will be our column 4. Right, so we've done that, we've loaded our data, and what else do we need? So let's, for each, as we go, let's calculate the body size for this bar. And we've, as you see, created above body size there. So the body size will, in percentage, so we'll be calculating in percentage, not in points, is the close, of course, multiplied by 100, divided by our open price. And we'll divide it minus 100 because we just want the difference in percentage. So that's one step more there. And now that we have our values, and the first step we're going to do in our algorithm, and often the way I do it is I visualize the way the algorithm goes through the data, and then as I implement it in code, I tend to invert it. So the process, the flow of the algorithm, I tend to invert it because that's how generally it's easier to implement it. I'll do it here, and perhaps as we go through it will be easier to check. So one of the things we're going to do is we're going to see first if there's already a trade open or not. So the easiest way perhaps to do this is to check the length of that list, of that open trade. So if the length of the open trade is greater than 0, that means there's already open trade, and therefore what we should be looking for is the stopping hit or the trade, the target being hit. So let's do this. So let's check first. So just put a comment here. Is there a position open? So is there a trade already open? If that's the case, so if this returns true, let's check, is the stop hit check for stop hit, right? So the way this is done, the stop will be the lowest of whatever of the two candles. So it's either the low of the first candle or the low of the second candle, whatever is the lowest. So what we do, of course, we'll do another conditional if. So if the low is smaller or equal to the stop, then the stop is hit. So perhaps one of the things we need to do here is I'll put a comment to show the structure of the list of or at least the way I'm thinking it. So the open trade will have this format. So the first entry will be the date, time when the trade is open, then the open price for the trade. So in this system, the open price will be the close of the second consecutive candle with the body size greater than the size we've determined or predetermined. So then will be followed by the stop price, which should be the lowest low of the two candles, and then the target price, which depends on our R. If it's 1, will be the same distance as to the stop. So it will be the open price plus that same distance on the upside, of course, this being only for longs. So that will be the structure of our open trade. And we might as well put a comment here for our trade list. So our trade list will be, of course, the open trade, so will be the date, time, the open price, the stop price, target price. So the same as the open trade, and then the details regarding the close of the trade. So it will be the date, time when the trade was closed, will be the close price. So it will either be the price at which the trade is closed. It would either be the stop price or the target price. In this case, we're not considering slippage or commission, so it will be the exact price of whatever, either the target price or the stop. And then one more entry, which will be our P&L in percentage. So P&L in percentage, right? So that's will be the structure. Will be it's useful to have that comment there so you can quickly look and remember. So obviously going back to our code, if the low is smaller than our open trade stop price, so it will be open trade, and going back here we can see, so 0, 1, 2 the stop price. So if that's lower, then we're triggering our stop. So if that's the case, we're going to close the trade if that happens. So we're going to append that entry into our trade list. So our trend append that data, and we're going to append all the entries we just revised there. So it'll be the open trade for the first item, which is the date at which the trade was open, and then the open price, the stop price, pardon, caps lock, and the target price, right? So now we'll be passing the date of the close price. So in this case, it's the date. So at this candle where the low was lower or equals to the stop price, so it's the current date which we've preloaded there. So the date, and then what else? We'll have the price of the at which the trade is closed. In this case, was closed at the stop. So it's the open trade 2, which is our stop price, and then will be our P&L in percentage, which I'm going to round for 2 decimal houses. So it will be the rounding of the open trade, in this case the price of the stop, multiplied by 100 divided by the open trade price. So the price that the trade was open, it has the same name as our list. And then of course, because we want the difference, minus 100, and we'll round it to 2 decimal units. Let's just revise. It's a long line. See if I have any typos. Append. So okay, we need to put this as a list, because a trade is a list, so we're going to append that as a list there. Right. Let's just compile, see if we get any errors. No errors. So far our code is clean. We do have some warnings there on ID, but that's because we've defined variables that we've yet to use. So it's just letting us know that there's variables there that have been yet to use. So this is what happens. So that the trade is being stopped, and therefore we're putting those details into our trade list. I'm interrupting this video here. Again, it's getting too long, so I'm breaking the second part of backtesting with Python, and we'll carry on the third part. Thank you very much for watching.